Hey everyone. Quick rant to finish out the day. Earnings season so far has gone pretty decent. Sector's pulled back a bit. Uh, the core biotech portfolio, my personal account, is just 1% below highs. So you would think we're doing pretty decent. But honestly, today was, for whatever reason, just a tough day in the market. I know the sector rebounded. Um, we had some holdings like Syndax where they had nice sell the news reactions that a lot of people in chat were able to take advantage of because the call notes were posted in real time. So people were able to see that the story is still getting better, despite maybe a few extraneous factors that kind of attract the negative attention or the algorithms or what have you. But definitely had this morning another holding that didn't go the direction I thought. And that decision of whether to buy, sell, or hold, to objectively reweigh your decision, your thesis, your game plan, can definitely be tough if you're not honest with yourself. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong. Dawn was a good example of that today. Here in April, I added to it, maxed it out actually, 10% portfolio weighting, but I just didn't have the patience to see it through. I forget if it was June or August or where I sold out the position for a pretty decent loss. And at the time, I remember they were having similar problems as the other holding in question as far as treating later line patients, in this case, PLGG. And those have lower duration of therapy versus the label, which is for earlier line. And I remember in their Q2 report, they had some green shoots, things that were getting better. But just that opportunity cost versus other names on radar led me to sell. So when you see it jump 25% today, I'm happy for longs. Don't get me wrong. But looking back, it's hindsight capital is what we like to call it in chat, where everything's clear in the rear view mirror. But yeah, when in doubt, whenever it's a tough day in the market for whatever reason, I find it's best to take some time away. Time in the gym always helps me before coming back to it. You guys saw I posted some pictures on X of the sunset, just getting away, getting some inspiration, remembering why we work in the first place. There was a phrase I like, this temporary trouble-filled life that when you think about it, puts the markets in perspective. This is a very small part of our lives. Of course, we want to get it right, but it's still nice to put it into context. I saw quite a few guys in chat, I felt like, who were not quite a few, but a number who were down because a few of their quarterly reports, their holdings weren't behaving well. And then people kind of go back to the biotech bear market phrase, which is, it's biotech. This is what it does. Biotech's just being biotech. And then when we look at performance, we're reminded like, hey, it's been a pretty awesome year this year, pretty solid. Last couple of years for us too, we're pretty decent relative to the benchmarks. I'm a fan of absolute performance overall too, because it doesn't really help if you're like, hey, I lost 10% this year, but the XBI lost 20%. So I did better. In the end, we still lost money, right? So another rant for another day. But yeah, too often I think this is a life and investing thing. We focus on the negatives too much and we overlook the positives. I did that with the Q2 report here for Dawn, and that they had green shoots, things getting better. And then lo and behold, another quarter later, and it comes through. And I tried to put that in practice with current holdings where maybe they're treading water, uh, but not going the direction I want them to. But if I comb back through the call notes and objectively reweigh thesis, sometimes you'd be surprised that a story is more on track than you thought it was. The converse is true too, of course. We have to be honest with ourselves, and when it's time to sell, it's time to sell. But I think the tough days in the market are good for us. They remind us about headspace, that it's you constantly have to fight to stay in a good territory, so you can make good decisions. It's all about controlling your emotions, um, keeping your goals in mind. Where you're trying to go with it, being realistic about what you know and what you don't, and reaching out to, like I do all the time, to smarter minds to ask them what I don't know. And aside, but our real time trades channel and chat has been getting increasingly actionable. It's always been good since we put it in there. The idea behind each channel is people use it a lot. Otherwise, why have it there? But with these sell the news reactions on Q3 reports, it's great to see people posting their reactions, the nuggets of the calls they found helpful, and then what action they're taking. So, when Nuvation fell to four here, for example, and having everybody in chat, I posted my call notes, other people posted theirs, what they thought, and people able to buy the dip quickly because the market will revalue, and especially if it's an algorithm driven sell off, or in this case, I think it might have been a sell off due to the longer clinical timelines for safusidenib, their glioma drug, but the main drug to start is Ibtrozi, which is already approved. So sometimes the market will focus on details or programs that aren't even included in the current valuation. So it's nice to have other minds to bounce this off of. But yeah, the tough days definitely give us perspective, so that when you have them again, you can say, "Hey, I've been here before. I know what to do. I know to take a step back." In my case, with Dawn or so many others, my knee jerk reaction, if there's something I like, is to sell it, and ask questions later, which isn't the right approach. Also, a lot of FOMO purchasing, FOMO buying, just because you feel like I have to hurry up and do something, which will adversely affect your account over the long haul as well, versus thinking your actions through more carefully. Oops. Sorry about that. You guys know I'm still learning to use this tech stuff, but hopefully the video comes out all right for you. A rough spot that definitely comes to mind. It was back 2022, maybe April or so. Let me pull that up. So the XBI was already nosediving from highs, consolidated, fell down here, so it had already fallen from 150 to under 100. And then here, this big red candle here, where it was just a sickening drop. And I remember I had friends who were managing OPM, other people's money, who were like, "Hey, I'm in the fetal position, literally on the floor." When I asked them how they were doing, um, at the time, I definitely didn't think ROTY biotech community, the service I'm seeking alpha, was going to survive it. My portfolio, in addition to being brought down by the SEC, I had a number of big binary losses. I'm sure the tickers will come to mind later, but ones, where you wake up to being kicked in the stomach, losing 90% because of the data, a phase three readout that failed, and it's 8% or 10% of your portfolio, which is absolutely stupid mental, I know, especially when you don't have an edge in it. I was just taking aggressive risk, excess risk to try to make it back, when you lose money, digging yourself a deeper hole. And that particular rough patch, I think, as some of you guys have told me, your personal lives, the personal can exacerbate or make worse the portfolio, the professional. And so I was coming off the tail end of my divorce there too, so I was in pretty rough shape. And I remember just seeing the portfolio go down day after day after day. And it got to the point where I remember even I had a post, a rough draft of a post ready to publish. And I've told a few people this, quite a few, I think, where the post was basically like a dear letter to everybody telling them that I was no longer able to add value in the portfolio, that I appreciated their time with us, but numbers didn't lie. So it was time to shutter the service, to close the service. And so I was literally like one click away from sending that and for all of this being over. That's why I always tell people this and so many other examples of why I shouldn't be here, everything I went through. Sometimes people only see the success now, they see the portfolio at all time highs, they see the rules, the system, but they don't know, what took you there. And I remember right before I clicked that post that I was going to end it all, uh, I think it was DSJ, if you're out there, DSJ, who was in chat. He's still there on BioX, but I remember he messaged me right then, and I don't know why he was thinking of me, but on my phone, and it was either through a private message or on my phone, and he just said on that big down day, "You better not be quitting on me." And I just laughed because he was reading my mind right as I was about to click that button, to send that post and just have it all be done with. And then afterwards, I remember I think I was with my parents at the time. They invited me out to the back porch, had a good meal, some family time, which is always quality. And I think that's when I had enough of a step back, there looking at the river behind the house and just kind of, praying about it too and just being like, hey, I'm going to give it my best, and whatever happens, happens. But it's not going to be because I quit. I'll keep trying, see how I can add value, do my best to add value, and see what happens. So the point being, when you've had days like that, then this little pullback from highs in the XBI now is small potatoes, and having earnings reactions that don't go your way are small potatoes in the big scheme of things. Reminds me of what my buddy Michael, I think I mentioned him in the last video, a retired guy in his 50s who's done well for himself. Got himself, he was antisocial, not good with people, so he forced himself to take sales positions to work on the social aspect. And anyway, he was talking about this time on the beach, the butterfly, and I can't confirm, but the way he put it is that the butterfly, when it comes out of the cocoon, it's trying to flap its wings, it's trying to break its way out of the cocoon, the caterpillar before, sorry, as it's becoming the butterfly, and it's beating its wings, and people sometimes will see it struggling to get out of the cocoon and try to help it. But the problem when it's moving its wings, exercising those muscles, it secretes a white liquid that helps it to get out of that cocoon somehow and to strengthen it and to eventually fly away. And so, if by helping the caterpillar butterfly get out of the cocoon and trying to spare it from the struggle, you're actually killing it. The wings won't get strong enough; it'll die. So I thought that was pretty poignant. How if we try to remove the struggle, we kill it. And I think that's every trader's journey. A lot of us investors, I wouldn't have the rules and the system I have now, the success I have now, if I hadn't been through the 4 or 5 times plus that I wanted to quit. Where whether a portfolio blew up or round tripped or you name it, all my unforced errors and mistakes, or simply times where you get it wrong, where you question if you can keep going. And for some people, obviously, the right direction decision is not to, do your index funds, focus on real life. That's great. But for those of us who stay at it and eventually find your system, what works for you, it was all because that struggle along the way is what got us there. So my friend even cited his sister's kids by she's a helicopter mom and hovers all over the kids, tries to make their lives as easy as possible. But because of that, because she doesn't, she tries to remove the struggle from them, that's why the kids have gotten pretty spoiled, not able to do things for themselves. And so I think that's where our chat comes in too. We're not going to spare you the struggle per se, but you are going to have a lot of people helping you to accelerate your learning curve, encourage you when you're at lows to get back up off the floor, and when you're at highs, even more important to knock you down a notch, take you down, keep you humble. So we're not trying to get free of the struggle, my friends. What I learned the hard way too. It's what makes us. It's what makes our investing success. If we do become successful, it's because of those struggles, because of those losses that you chose to intentionally learn from. One last one before I forget it comes to mind. My buddy said his quote was, "We're all in sales, whether you realize it or not." A lot of us, myself included, I don't like to sell. I like publishing material. People do what they do. If I'm adding value for the portfolio, people will find us. And if they don't, if I'm not adding value, then the service doesn't belong to be here. And we as traders don't belong to, or investors, if we're not adding value versus the benchmarks and a significant difference. Um, and on the path to achieve our goals, why are we doing it? And so, likewise, he was saying, if you're in sales and you don't realize it, whether you're in the dating world, selling yourself, whether you're hiring, trying to interview for different jobs, you're selling yourself. Another example was Selenos Therapeutics, the PWS obesity play, where they're under attack by a short seller. And a lot of friends who are in the stock were saying that the CEO didn't sell himself better. He didn't sell the story better. I know I always get on the case of CEOs for being cheerleaders too often, rah rah, everything's good, it's all a silver lining. But the opposite can be true too. You're supposed to be a cheerleader for your company to highlight the opportunity, to the path forward. And it felt like this guy, again, I haven't listened to the call, but from what friends were saying, um, just was not coming off aggressively toward the short seller, but also for the patient opportunity. Looks like a pretty solid drug. Should do well long term, even if discontinuation rates go up. But yeah, management has to be able to sell the story too. That reminds me of Biohaven, which I was fortunate enough to sell it on Friday for a decent profit. It was just risk management. I had no idea this was going to happen. I was trying to sidestep the binary risk, increasingly unpredictable FDA. And anyway, it dropped down already because of the Unicure Cure Huntington's program about face. That external control data was not enough. And then the same happened with Biohaven, despite multiple prior agreements with the FDA. They cited external control bias and all the similar related factors. So you can see shares gap down a lot. And this is a company too where the CEO is known for selling the company in the past, version one of Biohaven. So a lot of people kind of invest in it maybe blindly because of that. I think they have a great pipeline, but definitely they're spread too thin, too high cash burn, and now they're having to cut some things. But again, it's about the CEO being able to sell the story and be credible. I think that's all I got for today, guys. Hopefully it was helpful. My buddy Klaus from Brazil is here, and he was telling me the place that you live gives you the ability to create. So if you're in a place with good energy, good vibes, good people, mm, and I'm currently in Costa Rica, so that's been really good for headspace, heart space, you name it. And that's what's nice to gives you the fuel to make these videos, even if they're far from perfect. Tongue tied a few times, ramble into adjacent territory that I wasn't planning on. But that's the idea, putting yourself out there, adding value. I was talking to a friend who's interviewing for new opportunities and same things, kind of wondering what's on the horizon, how much he can control. I posted that picture on X today, just a pretty amazing sunset tonight. And what it reminded me is just how temporary all this stuff is. We need to take ourselves a little bit less seriously. And when you do have these unforced errors, if that was you in Biohaven or the portfolio pulling back like it did for me this morning, remember just maybe how small it is in the grand scheme of things. I'm not saying that as an excuse. Performance is important. We want to do the best we can. We have to be adding significant value. Otherwise, why do it? It has to be enjoyable, but also take a step back for perspective, where you are on your journey, maybe the hard times you've already been through, that you've gotten this far. Um, that kind of gives you some encouragement that you'll continue in the right direction, accelerating your learning curve, reaching your goals. And that's not just positive talk. That's been my experience. I never would have thought the portfolio would be at the highs it is now after all the lows and times along the way where I thought I was in a ditch and I wasn't able to get out of it. So I guess that last part is directed at a few private messages from friends, those in chat who were a little down today because of some of their holdings not reacting well to Q3 reports. Remember, each day is a blank slate. Tomorrow is a blank slate, my friends, to get a good night's sleep, wake up, and make the best decisions you can for the portfolio, whether that's taking a loss and moving on, realizing we got it wrong, whether that's holding a position patiently, whether it's taking partial profits to manage risk, whether that's especially adding to a position where you have increasing conviction because there's concrete evidence the story is getting better. But if we make each trade our best, good things will happen. My portfolio at high is definitely showing that today. Um, so yeah, signing off. Cheers, guys.